Welcome back to 8 Cubes, the show where we discuss the 8 most important things in Marvel Snap. I'm KMBest, he's Lambie Series, and maybe the most important thing in Marvel Snap all year is happening right now. They're making a new Jeff the Baby Land Shark, except this time he's a dolphin. Jeff the Baby Dolphin is a 2/2 that can move once per game. And whenever one of your cards reveals at his location, that card gets +1 power. So just baseline. This is kind of like an Angela that moves. That also synergizes with things that want to get power. Just seems like a baseline, extremely strong card. But will it fit into the current metagame? I think that's a little bit of a different question. Let's start with question number 1. Is this card just baseline quite strong?
All right, so the firstly, it's gonna be whether it's gonna be strong or not. It's gonna be popular because it's Jeff 2.0, right? Jeff 2.0. You guys knew what happened with the first Jeff. Jeff was super popular, so Jeff 2.0 is definitely gonna be a popular card, variants or whatever. But like, yeah, so I think this card in terms of like its power level, I think it's actually relatively high, right? Because now the thing about giving stats in the current state of the game or meta or whatsoever, it's not about giving stats, it's about compounding stats. And the thing is, Jeff is very good at giving stats to the compounders or the stuff that enables stuff to compound, right? We already know about this, the Captain Carter deck and stuff that multiplies power and stuff like that. So I think as a 2-drop, it fits really nicely in that kind of shell. Also, movable means that you can reallocate your power quite easily, right? Because like if you realize you've overinvested in one location, you just shift this guy, and then like everything else you play in that so-called new location that you want to invest power in gets the buff and hopefully compounds as well. So I think in terms of flexibility, anything that says move, like even down to the beginning, right? The beginning of Marvel Snap, Nightcrawler, the first one that was actually really very relevant. Movement, very powerful. This one is movement plus buff that buff stuff that could compound. So I think it's actually very relevant and could see play in like a lot of decks going forward.
So I agree with the baseline here, but there's a couple of super specific things that I want to bring up that I think might blunt the power level of this card.
Mm-hmm.
The first is, well, let's start with the good. The first is that a movable card is really good if you're doing Prodigy stuff. You love having that because it just means that you can get whatever you want to hit on that Prodigy whenever you want to hit it on that Prodigy and not worry about it. That's a really good thing to have in a deck like that. The problem is those decks, the Captain Carter combo decks, are built around compounding your buffs. They're built around going exponential with whatever number you have. And you kind of can't play this card in the same deck as Storm, Horseman of Famine.
Yeah.
And that's a big worry for me, not because Storm is going to be a better card, but because she provides a bigger buff to start with. And that specific dynamic is the one that I wonder if it might not prevent Jeff from being as good as he could be, because I think that it's particularly likely, if we think that deck is going to be a particularly meta-relevant deck, the best buff deck or whatever, it's a little interesting that they release a card that's such a good buff card that might not actually go in the best buff deck. And I think that might relegate Jeff to like a very good card in a bunch of things that are like tier 2 kind of thing. It's very easy for this situation to change, right? Like if they do something to Captain Carter or if they change that deck in certain ways, and it's probably not a guarantee that this is going to happen, but I think that for a card that I look at and I think this is incredibly powerful, it's an incredibly strong card. For a card that's as strong as it is, there is a shocking amount of competition, direct competition that it gets from other things in that space. And while I do think it's a strong card that will have many more homes than Storm Horseman, I guess it probably makes sense, right? That in the specific niche of doing what Storm Horseman wants you to do, maybe it is a little bit better than Jeff. Maybe that's a good thing, that there's not just one card that's also the best at this. I am a little bit concerned about his immediate fit in the Captain Carter combo decks, which are pretty clearly the best decks in the game right now because of the conflict with Storm Horseman. But he is just a really strong card, and I could see it going either way. Just I don't think it's a guarantee because of how much Storm Horseman is compounding what that deck already wants to do. Next up is Venus, a 3/3 with an ability that says whenever one of your cards is empowered, it also gets an additional +1 power. I guess we should clarify what empowered is at this point. My understanding of empowered is anytime a card gets a buff of green power that does not come from an ongoing source. So Blue Marvel is not empowering stuff, but if you play a Gilgamesh, the Gilgamesh gaining the power, that's being empowered. You play a Silver Surfer, it's giving the power to the card. If it gets hit by Shadow King, it's empowered, basically. That's my understanding. And this is a pretty interesting card on a couple levels. The first thing that I think makes it kind of interesting is, obviously, it's a 3 cost. You play this with Silver Surfer, and you get 3 power out of it. But there's like other interesting things you could do with Venus too, right? Like a Bishop, for example. But I'll tell you, probably the most interesting thing that I thought of with Venus is playing her with Zombie Scarlet Witch and just making that be 3 power every time. It's like, okay, that's like pretty compelling. That's a whole deck built around empowering stuff. I don't think that's going to have like a lot of legs because Gambit still exists and because the combo decks are as powerful as they are. But this is a card that I think is like a bit of a sleeper, where it's going to release into a metagame that is particularly combo heavy, and it's not going to be good at being a combo deck compared to the things that are currently a combo deck. But if those combo decks are balance outliers and get dragged down, then suddenly this is the kind of card that in a fair metagame can actually be a really relevant piece. And I think that obviously it goes pretty well with Jeff himself. This is a reasonable card to be on the Super Season Pass. A lot of things that make me feel like this might not be the time for this card, but it might have a time in the future.
So I think I pretty much agree with what you said for the most part. So the question here is like, in theory, when will this card actually find I wouldn't say when, but like in what kind of decks will this card actually find a home in? Is my question to you and the people watching as well.
Yeah, like Surfer, but like the fair kind, and Zombies, but like the fair kind. And it's like the reason we don't play those isn't because they're bad, it's because they're fair, right?
Yeah.
And if we were in a metagame where like the tech was different and it fit in those decks, then we would be playing those decks, but we're not.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like the thing about playing fair green power decks, I guess empowered decks. Okay, now we just gotta call it empowered. Green power is phasing out. We need to use empowered now because it's the official term. So fair empowered decks all die to the same thing that unfair unpowered decks die to, right? Which is Shadow King. So why are you doing the fairer thing when you could be doing the unfair thing? If you lose to the same thing, might as well do the thing that's like better and hope you don't get hit by the Shadow King.
Because you also lose to the mirror, right? Like that's the biggest problem is like if you're playing like a Sebastian Shaw empowered deck and you run into the person playing the Captain Carter combo deck, you lose to them, and then you also lose to the people who are trying to beat them by playing Shadow King Grandmaster.
So basically fair empowered decks are just like the victim of splash damage from people trying to beat whatever is like unfair right now, sadly.
Can I just say, the fact that this is a beach season means that a lot of our terminology is going to sound like puns. We're going to say splash damage and like splash that in. It's going to happen a lot, and it's just, you're just going to have to deal with it as an audience, I think. So while the previous 2 cards, I think I can evaluate on like a sliding scale of like, this is pretty good, but maybe won't necessarily have a big moment to shine right now, or this is pretty good, and even though it's pretty good, it's releasing in a relatively hostile metagame. Monstro, an 8/8 that gets discounted by the cost of the top card of your deck, is a card I see almost no redeeming qualities in. I have been told by multiple high-level players that it is a power-crept Howard the Duck, because you can use it to see what's on top of your deck and play Iron Lad. And to that I say, good luck with that.
It is probably a power crept Howard the Duck, but the bar is so low, right? I mean, okay, so Howard the Duck's bar is so low, so a power crept Howard the Duck doesn't actually mean that it means anything like significant. Like in a perfect world, you play it for really cheap early on and you just forget about it. But like, what deck is this going in, right? That's the thing. Like, it's going in no deck. Like, it's going in no deck because every deck wants to play 12 real cards, and this is the 13th card in a bad deck.
Like, the other thing about it is, like, you're like, okay, I get a 6-drop on top of my deck. I play this for 2, right?
Exactly.
Whatever deck you're doing that in. Wouldn't you be better off playing Chamber or Moondragon? Isn't that just more
Exactly.
points? Like, isn't it just more points?
Yeah. Chamber a Moondragon is just like the better version with zero need to high roll.
Yeah, they're the better versions, and they cost 2 all the time instead of just some
and you never
of the
need
time.
to draw perfect. Yeah.
Like, I don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. This card looks even worse when you compare it with Wilson Fisk, because like they just made a card that's like, do something pretty easy, and it's a 3/9. And this guy is probably not even a 3/8 most of the time. And it's like, I'm not seeing it. I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do with this guy. I like that they did the little cute 8/8 thing where it's an octopus, so it's got 8
With
power.
and...
You know, like that's cute.
Yeah.
But like this is a card where it's like, I don't think it has homes unless this says 10 on it, and then I'm playing it in Scar. You know what I mean?
Right. It's also a DJ, right? It looks like it's a DJ of sorts, and
I don't know why it looks like that.
no, because eight beats of 8. Okay, no, if you guys play
Oh, it's
instruments,
8 BP.
Eight, no, not BPM, but
measure,
like think when you do the counting of like beats, it's like 8 beats or something. But yeah, anyway.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, it's definitely not 8 beats per minute. That'd be slow as hell.
Yeah, but, no, that's not.
I was pretty excited for Lady Bullseye, and she is like the cool card I wanted her to be, but her archetypes are too mediocre to really compete, which is tough because I do think she's like, if you're a high Evo fan like myself, she's a good high Evo card. I really don't think there's a way around that. Like, I would expect most high Evo decks to be playing her in whatever capacity going forward, and I think that's probably a good thing because being a high Evo deck is like one of my favorite things in the world to be. It's just very hard to do right now. I actually did get to a version of Lady Bullseye High Evo that I felt pretty confident into the Afflict decks with, or not the Afflict decks, the Captain Carter decks with, because I was afflicting them so much. And then, because Lady Bullseye came out, they started playing Luke Cage, and I couldn't play that deck anymore. Yep. It was like, okay, well, I guess we just have to wait for them to stop doing that. And it is true that, like, once they stop doing that, there's, like, a pretty compelling, like, when you're doing, like, Mother Ascani Laufey or Mother Ascani Lady Bullseye and playing some Abominations for free, that's actually pretty good. Like, it felt very Phantom X-esque to me, where it's like, yeah, okay, if they're playing the Luke Cage, I lose, but I've got, like, a pretty reasonable point package output here that's very good against the things that the Captain Carter decks are trying to do. It felt like there were like actual things you could do with the card that were good, that weren't just like absolutely terrible garbage, but like it felt more like, you know, this is like a tier 2.5 deck that has one specific good matchup against a good deck. And then when you play against everything else, you're just like, ah, yes, well, my one specific matchup isn't here, so unlucky me.
Yeah. I mean, like, this is not really a fast forward to like our nerfs topic, but like a lot of these things can see the light of day more with certain amount of nerfs, I would say. Like the thing about this like high evo being not good enough thing, it's a big problem, right? Because like it's a simple deck that's supposed to be like catered to a lot of people that just start the game and like you want to play a good deck that wins games. But the problem is like this so-called simple deck that could win games is like not good enough still with respect to the current meta, you know. And Lady Bullseye, while finding a home in this deck in particular, does not give the deck a place in the current meta for sure, because it's like too little power scaling.
Yeah, and like I really still like her. Like she's everything I wanted her to be. It's just it doesn't
in this deck,
matter.
right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. She's great in this deck.
Yeah, I can I just say, like, high Evo take, they should make it 1 energy cheaper.
Well, like, why not, right? Like, I still think like 1 energy cheaper, it's not gonna like make it a tyrant.
Yeah.
But
they should just make high
Evo
make that
playable, way more playable. Yeah.
Make him not a 4/7, make him a 3/5 or something. Just do that. I don't know.
I agree.
All right, so now we are at Stick. The Stick review, I think, is a complex topic because I've seen a lot of discourse that's like, wow, Stick makes this deck broken. No, he doesn't. No. The deck was already broken. Stick is, I would ballpark, the 6th best card in the deck. He is worse than Captain Carter. He is worse than Maverick. He is worse.
Is he better than Surfer?
Yes, he's better than Surfer. Come on now. That card is 12.
Yeah, you were getting there. I knew you were getting there. Yeah.
Well, like he's better than he's worse than Captain Carter. He's worse than Maverick. He's worse than Prodigy. He's worse than Mother Ascani. You could argue he's worse than Grandmaster. He's worse than probably Storm Horseman of Famine, but those last two are pretty debatable. And so again, not trying to do the joke here, but he's somewhere around 6 or 7. And that I'm not doing the joke. It's not intentional.
Yeah, you didn't raise your hands. Yes.
No, he just actually is there. And he is a good card because he raises the consistency of a deck that was already very good. But I do think that because he was sort of the tipping point at which people realized how strong the deck was, he's catching a lot of undue hate. Where I'll see people say, like, Stick is broken. And it's like, he's the 7th most broken card in that deck. Like, everything else is way stronger than him. He's just helpful. It's just nice that you have a second worse Maverick. And that was a lot of the analysis that I did going into the season when I did my card reviews. I was like, this is worse Maverick. And also, that means it's busted because Maverick is really good and you want a second Maverick. And it's like, that's basically exactly what happened. Although I will say, I do think he is still worse Maverick. The degree by which he's worse Maverick is actually a little smaller than I thought it would be. Like, you can do him on the final turn of the game. There's just kind of big boy moves, right? Like, you get a lot of, like, you get some outs there, right? Like, sometimes the deck would previously clunk if you didn't get your Maverick in time. But now if you've got your Hope Summers or you've got even just, like, a 2-drop to play, you can do the Stick lane and actually have a final turn of the game that's pretty ridiculous. Like, he's a good card even in comparison to Maverick. Maverick's still a little better, but a little better rather than a lot better, I think. And
I mean, I want to reiterate, like,
sure,
go ahead.
No, you got it.
No. I just want to reiterate, like, the point you made about, like, because we talked about it last week as well, right? We were predicting that this was going to be like worse Maverick, but the fact that it's like okay to be worse Maverick, and then after, like, it actually arrived, it's actually not a lot worse Maverick, just a little bit worse Maverick. Which means it kind of did the Mr. Negative thing with the what was that card again?
When we got Star-Lord and Mr. Negative.
It's
like that. Yeah.
You got Enabler number 2, right? Like, which is like slightly worse, but because there is Enabler number 2, you win games still. Like, it's not winning by a huge margin because Maverick wins by huge margins when it goes off, right? It's kind of obvious. But like,
or when you
this
have
one maybe
both
wins
of
by
them,
smaller margins, but you win. You know, you win by smaller margins, but you win. So it's a consistency piece, which is really good. So I guess Stick will be sticking around for quite a bit. I just wanted to say that. I wanted to fit that.
You wanted to get the sticking around.
Yeah,
joke.
I want to get sticking around in sticky situations. But like, anyway,
great. Phenomenal. Outstandingly done. It really organically worked in there.
No one saw that coming, surely. Stick is sticking around. Anyway.
You got any more? You want to like put
no,
you want to stick some
I think the sticky situations one was already pushing it. So
okay, all right. So the Captain Carter combo deck, the stick deck, whatever people want to call it, I still like default to calling it Surfer because my brain is broken, which it just isn't. It isn't a Surfer deck. The addition of Stick has made Surfer even worse in the deck, by the way, because it's like now you actually have a combo on turn 5.
It's gonna get cut soon, then surely.
I think realistically it's gonna get cut for Cosmo because of what we're gonna talk about in this, but I'm not sure it actually can afford being cut for Cosmo. Every time I go to cut Surfer for something else, I play one of those games where Surfer's on the left side of my hand, and I play Mother Ascani on it a couple times, and I'm like, man, if this was a Luke Cage, I'd be so mad right now. That's kind of
because the tech card, right? The tech card has no power. The tech card is just deterrence. You don't need double deterrence, right? Yeah, you never need double deterrence. If this was
Luke Cage, I would hate this, and so I never end up cutting him, even if it probably makes more sense to cut him, because the way people beat this Captain Carter combo deck is basically by playing Shadow King in multiple lanes. And one of the big things you have to do that is manipulate priority. So Sizer sort of reminded me that Invisible Woman exists, and now you can just do like whatever sort of tempo deck you're playing, you just play Invisible Woman, Grandmaster, and Shadow King under the Invisible Woman, and then you win the game because their entire deck is green power. Yeah. And it's like, do you remember when we were doing Invisible Woman Killmonger to beat like bounce and move bounce?
Yeah. The trope, you don't force yourself to not like really throw priority, right?
Yes.
Just play it all under the IW and it just global effects at the end of the game.
That's what this is like.
Yeah,
where it's basically. Like we are not in a position where we can realistically have minimal output to the level that they can, because they're only playing cards in one lane the entire game. So we're not going to be able to throw priority normally, so we have to cheat it. And whether that means Super Giant or Invisible Woman, when I've been talking to high-level players, those are the things that people have been doing. Just like cheat priority, get a Shadow King down that's going to actually work. Super Giant also does some work in the context of just preventing them from fully comboing off, but Cheap priority, get your interaction down, make them not be able to do anything. It's precarious, though, because if they do cut that Surfer for a Cosmo, suddenly they just put that in your Invisible Woman lane and you probably die. But there's some stuff to be done about this deck that should get done. The question is always going to be, is it worth it? What's it costing you? I've been doing the Invisible Woman stuff in TOV shells and in Victoria hand shells. And it's possible there's even more spaces to do that kind of stuff. I'm not sold that we've found the final form of it. I think that that's the kind of thing where it's like, this is the package you put in your deck to have a good matchup into this deck, and then we call it a day from there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't have much to add to what you said, but like, I just want to talk a bit about TOV in particular, because this kind of is like that topic, right? Like the TOV is so interesting because it's like you get to play such a vanilla deck. Like it's all just like vanilla stats, but then like when you just need one tech card to work in one matchup,
Yeah.
and then the TOV shores up the remaining points. Like I'm a complete like hater of anti-meta like decks. I don't like playing the anti-meta, but like this is actually an quote unquote anti-meta deck that works, right?
It's
like, because
using TOV to supplement it, yeah.
Yes, it's like it works because you have a supplement of like stats regardless of which tech card actually matters in the matchup.
Yep. And I think that like the sort of spectrum of TOV decks that you see is really funny, because you get like TOV decks that are just like 4 tech cards and the only points are coming from like TOV and like Lizard and Wilson Fisk and stuff. And then you get like TOV decks. You get like TOV decks that are like no tech cards, and they're playing like Shadowlands Daredevil and Sasquatch and Scar and Starbrand, and they're just like, what's up? I've got points.
Like, that's probably worse than the tech ones,
I think it
though,
is
right?
too, but like it certainly beats the mirror. Like if those two decks play against each other, the guy who's playing tens is winning.
Big guy one wins for sure.
Yes, and so it's like it's a really interesting dynamic of like crabs in a bucket, right? Because they get like the people who are playing all the tech cards are getting dragged down by their matchups against the people who are playing no tech cards. And I do think that's relevant.
The people with no tech cards just get blown out by the Maverick stuff,
right?
Because they have
but it's
no
like, what
cards.
if I like it's just a bet that I'm gonna play against more things where the tech cards aren't relevant than where they are, and it's like, you know what? That's not a bad bet necessarily, right? Like if I'm playing all these 4 tech cards and my opponent is playing like Arashem or whatever, who cares? Like I'd rather just have the points.
Exactly.
In terms of nerfs, I do think that the Carter combo deck is nerfable, largely because of the space that it occupies. And I do think that I would aim the nerf at Carter specifically, because I think she's the thing that makes them get to the absolute apex of point ceiling. And that's not to say that you can't get to do ridiculous stuff if you are also using some of the other cards in this list, right? Like you can get plenty of ridiculously sized broods by doing just like play a Maverick after you played your Storm, and then activate the Maverick on an Agony Prodigy in the same lane. And it's like, okay, you're getting like 36 power broods off of that. That's really good. They're gonna be really big. That's still good enough, right? But I think a lot of the true ridiculous draws in this list are functions of Captain Carter. And I think that Captain Carter is the card a lot of this stuff rotates around, such that removing her from this list would be the easiest way to make it be forced to play more fair. So my pitch would be Captain Carter 4 cost 4 power. I want her to be very difficult to play in here. I do not want it to be easy. I do not want it to be straightforward. I want as much of your stuff to be on the board looking at it and be vulnerable to Shadow King, because notably Captain Carter's a little bit less vulnerable to Shadow King than the others, because she's just gonna be passing on her buff regardless. Like if you Shadow King a Maverick, it goes down to 3-2. Captain Carter goes down to 3-2, but she's playing for 3-6. Just like little things like that that make her a more appealing target for me. I think that that's one of them. There's a couple other like edge nerfs that I'd probably do. The first is Prodigy to 3-3. Just seems like I hate things that copy things. The second is Grandmaster to 2-2. Exactly the same logic. Just pay more for the privilege of doubling your effects. That's really just where that ethos is. And Mother Ascani, I would either take a point off of her or have her give 1 point less on her effect. Again, stop copying stuff. Like, just stop it. I need you guys to chill.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, that's
No, no,
good.
no. I just want to play. I just want to play devil's advocate
Sure.
for that list that you made, because the only one I think probably shouldn't be nerfed is Mother Ascani. That's actually what I think.
Interesting. Okay.
Like the rest are fine. I'm cool with. I'm cool. The Captain Carter, the Carter one, I'm like down, right? But
Yeah.
the Mother Ascani one is interesting because like, if I think duplicating stuff is fine. Like we saw how, like, okay, so duplicating stuff in the context of, like, let's just say like V Hand, right, with Moon Girl, right? It's okay. It's not overpowered because the stuff you're duplicating is just like is demons. It's like 1/6s. They're like not overpowered. But the thing is, Mother Ascani has been duplicating scalers like thus far.
Yes.
So I feel like it's not really her fault, because I think duplicating stuff is cool, like it gives you like some power spike. But she's duplicating overpowered stuff right now, on average. So I guess if you just reduce the number of actual overpowered cards, you can keep her around to like duplicate other things in other decks in the future for a while until she starts duplicating more broken stuff again. So like I think, and also because the card is new, so like I wanna like cook like Mother Ascani being able to use her effect in other things, because now I think there's like no real reason to explore Mother Ascani in other things, because now you're duplicating like insane scalers, right? So I guess the scalers are a little bit more of the problem for me.
I guess here's the thing. I agree with the premise that the things that are problematic to copy are going to be scalars, right? Are going to
Okay.
be the things that are problematic to copy are going to be whatever you can do to manipulate the game state to create the most amount of points for the least amount of energy. Whether that's a scalar or just playing Mother Ascani Grandmaster on the Captain Carter in your hand, whatever it is, it's going to be something ridiculous. My argument is basically that creating one of those situations, a situation where you're going to be copying something that scales with itself, is much easier to do and will always be much easier to do, because all it
Right.
takes is one card that does that at any given time.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I think that's quite true as well, right? Because like it's like how we always say, like, every time they print and like a new ongoing card, so and so gets better. Every time you print a new on review card, this or
Yeah.
a new like end of turn card, this card so and so gets better. Yeah, I guess Mother Ascani does suffer a little bit from that,
It's
right?
one of
Like
those where it's
every
like, it
time they
doesn't really
print, yeah.
matter what the thing is, right? Like when Frigga was good, it was copying Human
Yep,
Torch,
yep,
but it was
yep,
also copying V-Hand. It was also copying Gambit. As long as there's a card that does it, right? It's going to be an intensifier on that card's power. And that means that, like, every time they make a card, they should not have to ask themselves, what happens when we jam it in a deck that copies it a bunch of times, right?
Yeah,
Like
I guess like what happens if this is duplicated and
yes.
discounted, right?
And it's
I
like,
guess
I like, that's my big thing with those three cards is like, you're allowed to have them, but their rate is too good. You're allowed to have them. If you want to have them, that's fine. Like if you want to copy stuff, that's fine. Pay more on the base rate, effectively, is my premise here. Grandmaster, we're taking a point of power off you. Prodigy, point of power off. Mother Ascani, point of power off. You can still go copy stuff. It's just not going to be as free. The downside risk is going to be higher when it doesn't work.
Wait, when you say Mother Ascani point of power off, you mean like on the card itself, right?
Either on her or on the card that she's copying. I don't really care which. I think it depends on how much you want to nerf her, because it's definitely easier on her to leave the point of power on the card she's copying and take it off of her.
Yeah.
But like if you want to nerf her more, I think you go the other direction.
Right. So random curveball again. I just thought of this one. What about, okay, this is probably not going to happen because it's probably the worst nerf. But what if they nerf a point of Brood, right? Because that's the thing that
It
actually
won't matter.
it triplicates. Yeah, no, I'm just
I know. But Brood is the output. The problem is the engine.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's
like,
not a problem, yeah.
So Golden Gauntlet is coming up this weekend. And Lambie, I think what we have in Marvel Snap are a bunch of people who play a lot of Marvel Snap, but don't necessarily play a lot of tournaments. So if you're someone who's going to give advice as someone who's played a ton of tournaments,
yes,
what is it that you think that someone who's maybe playing the tournament for their first time, they're like a good ladder player, what is it you think they need to hear in terms of how they should prepare for this event and how they should think about this event?
Right, so this topic could be a whole episode, but because we are not making it a whole episode, some very important quick tips. I would say like the most important ones. You could be a really good ladder player, but you may not be a very good Conquest player. That is a huge difference, by the way. Like, I think the skill set in Ladder and Conquest is, I think it's almost two different Marvel Snap games, and I'm gonna stand by that. So go and practice up and brush up on your Conquest. Even if you're like a returning player who used to play a lot of Conquest, go brush up on it and just like make sure you know like when you're supposed to be snapping, when do the cubes matter more, when you need to like push like all in when it's a bad matchup. Okay, but that's like Conquest specific. I think in terms of preparation, one thing everyone should be doing is like if you're going into a tournament where people are trying to win, make sure you know what's popular. Make sure you know what's like the stuff that people are gonna bring if they want to win, you know. So you either bring that yourself and play to win mirrors, or bring stuff that's good or like playable into like the popular and best decks, you know, because if you're intending to win, that's what you gotta do. If you want to bring some like weird spicy sauce, okay, so this is another curveball because Marvel Snap is like it's an 8-cuber, it's an 8-cube game if there is spice involved. Sometimes it's just because your opponent like doesn't know how to play around your stuff, right? They don't know how to play around like stuff that they're not experienced with. You want to bring something spicy, make sure it like hits really hard. That's all I gotta say. Like make sure it's like something that when it works, and then your opponent there's no way back, that kind of thing. That's my advice when it comes to people who want to bring spice. But in general, be prepared for the meta and be prepared to play against like a lot of meta decks and make sure you know how to beat them.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. I've been KMBest. He's been Lambie Series, and he's about to take us out.
All right, guys. Hope you like this episode. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.